So let me tell you briefly about this gang life thing that I was teasing. I watched this. I may get a clip for you, a couple of brief clips for you another day. But I was watching this man speak to this media organization, Insider. Sounds like a mainstream media organization. And he gave this, like 20 or 30 minute, well, it was edited together, 20 or 30 minute edited interview discussion. Really, all you hear is him talking about being in a Mexican gang. Not the Mexican mafia. He was in a gang that opposed the Mexican mafia. He talked about this thing called NR, Nuestra Raza, something like that, our race. And it fed into this thing that he got into because he was a true believer, called NF, I think, Nuestra Familia, our family, our Mexican family, or whatever they were. And he was part of the Norteños, something like that. The Northerners. Estamos en el norte. And they opposed the Sureños, the Southerners. So it was Mexican on Mexican violence, and he also fought with the Aryan Brotherhood. And I'll tell you something about the Aryan Brotherhood if I think of it later. Oof, the reason that they were founded according to some report. And the blacks. They would fight against the blacks too. So it's basically a prison gang, I guess, and also an on-the-street gang, too. And he was in prison or jail at age 18 in 1988. So he was born in 70. He has 10, 11 years on Hake. And he talked about how they have a number of drops of blood, supposedly, in one of their little symbol things. And the first blood is blood in. And I think that means you have to kill somebody or hurt somebody to get initiated or something like that. And I remember, I may be wrong on this little detail, but I remember one of the white young women who used to go to the school that I went to, high school. She was out of high school and she was at the gas station. And this gang member jumped into the back of her car when she was at the gas station paying for her pump to pump up her gas. And somebody saw it and told her, hey, there's somebody who jumped in the back of your car who's going to kill you. Allegedly. That's what they suspected. It was a gang initiation thing. You have to do this to get initiated into the gang. So that's blood in, I think. I don't know. You guys may know. And then the other one is blood out. Means you can't leave. If you leave, that's a death sentence. I didn't know that because I saw this movie that my friend showed me when I was in college. Old movie. Blood in, blood out. Something. I forget what it was. No, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about this interview with this Mexican gang member. Big old fat guy. He used to be fit, strong. They worked out not to get a karate body, but for war. War in the yard, fighting, killing, hurting each other, stuff like that. And then there was a third one that was like a third blood drop to honor the fallen who killed in the name. Hake explaining gang culture is pretty funny, says Kevin Howe. I'll get to the calls in a minute. Thank you, Kevin Howe, I guess. The third one is honoring the fallen, those who died in the name of their gang, NF, Nuestra Familia. It's embarrassing, says Alex Watts. Oh, oops, I doxed him. So anyway, one of the things he says was that something that a young gang member told him when he was early days is that you have to spill blood to go up in the ranks, to get notoriety and honor and respect among this Mexican Hispanic gang. And I know people who've told me this. That the Mexicans, they think that it's an honor to hurt or kill somebody. Hispanics, whatever. Isn't that interesting? So that's two witnesses. One, the guy from the horse's mouth, former gang member, and 2 from my friend who told me about this. Wow. Shameful. You know, these different groups take on different things and get proud of their degeneracy and their evil. You know, these people, I can drink you under the table. I can drink more than any of you guys. What's good about drinking? It's not good for you. Oh, well, good for you that you can do that, but that's not good for you. Same thing with, oh, I killed. That's not right. It's not right. And then the other thing that he said was that in the 90s, 80s, stuff like that, they started like in the 70s, their gang. And then in the 90s and 80s, if you left or if you reported against them, like you testified against any gang members or whatever, you had a hit on you. You couldn't stay in California. You had to leave. Or it was a serious, serious threat on your life. Less so now. Their influence has waned, he said. Less so now. And he said that it's because of something that that Bill has mentioned. You know, remember all the murders that happened during the crack epidemic? So-called crack epidemic? Blacks killing one another, Hispanics killing one another, and each other. Murders through the roof, murder numbers through the roof in all these major cities, LA, New York, Chicago, of course. It was like in the thousands of murders or homicides, 900s, 800s, thousands. Nowadays, it's more common to be like 300s, okay? Which is still a lot of murders, but it's not triple or double or whatever. Stop, Hake, you're convincing me to join La Raza, says Seasal. Don't do it, Missy. I mean, Mrs. Seasal. He said it waned because of the 3 strikes law. That's what he pointed to. The 3 strikes law. You know, 3 felonies or violent felonies, and you're out. He said nowadays, I don't know when this interview took place. It was put out a few months ago or several months ago. He said nowadays they just sell drugs. They don't do the violent crime so much. They used to have a robbery force, a wrecking crew, whatever that meant. Some of you guys may know. Whatever, drug selling, stuff like that, dealing. So that's Bill and this man, 2 witnesses that the 3 strikes laws are a big part of why the violent crimes went down. He also talked about cell phones and what a mess cell phones are. It used to take months for a message for a hit to off somebody to get out there because they had to do all these different things, snail mail type things. No, they can do it. They can call a hit and get it done that afternoon from their cell phones. The correctional officers will give them cell phones illegally in the prison. Crazy. Ms. Hake showing his PC side. When I was a kid, Ms. meant, if you don't know if it's a Miss or Mrs., or some people just go by Ms. So it's not PC, it's just how I learned it. It's not meant to be PC. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know. But I do know it's Mrs., so I corrected myself later. So isn't that interesting? The 3 strikes laws did indeed work. I bring that up because all these phony liberal criminologists, these people who research, the crime and history of crime and stuff like that. This is interesting to me. They research them and they present it as though we don't know. It's a variety of factors. What caused the crime to go down? It was tough on crime policies, in large part, I think. They wised up. They did broken windows policing. Broken windows policing is when they get you for petty things, and they get tough on you for that. I saw this incident where this guy allegedly, on video, on X, Twitter, the other week, it was kind of going viral. He had jumped the turnstile or something. He didn't pay his fare to go on the subway little commuter train thing. And the cops arrested him, and he was kind of resisting arrest, so they had to kind of slam him. They slammed him. And people are like, oh, they shouldn't treat him so rough. It's just he just skipped the fare, $2 fare, whatever. And Mike Cernovich, he's been on the JLP show, the Fallen State, men's conferences before, or at least one. He said, I think it's good. Thumbs up that cops will do, and he's not a simp for the police, quality of life enforcement. Because you don't just let that stuff slide. You let that slide, it gets worse. Slippery slope is real. One, it's wrong to let that slide. And two, when you slide, they slide into worse things. Very often. You don't necessarily, to the point that I was making earlier about jumping to conclusions, you don't assume that that guy is doing worse things. But you well know that that type often does. It's a risk assessment, and it's right to do the broken windows policing and the 3 strikes laws. 3 strikes laws could possibly have prevented that cop killer whom I told you about a year or two ago from being out on the street to kill my friend and his partner, who was showing up for a domestic violence, so-called, a false domestic violence call, by the way. She got stabbed the day before, not that day. Crazy, huh? So broken windows policing did indeed help. And, you know, these people, these criminologists will also lie, and then I'll get to calls, and say, oh, the crime spiked after the 2014 Black Lives Matter, but we can't attribute that to Black Lives Matter riots and terrorism and insurrection across the country supported by Obama, or the 2020 Black Lives Matter insurrections. Crime spiked after that. And the criminologists who are liberals, journalists, you know, will say, we don't know why. It's a variety of things. Oh, we also had a pandemic, which they shut down and made things more desperate for people, whereas Trump had people less desperate, able to make their money and work and do business. But Black Lives Matter increased the violent crime because it was a clamp down on police who were justified in a lot of the stuff that they were doing. There's unjustified policing and there's justified policing. There's unjustified accusations of this racism stuff. In Freddie Gray, they had 6 cops arrested and charged, and I think all of them were acquitted after that, including blacks. And suckers think, oh, that's an example of racism, that that Freddie Gray died. Blind people. Kevin Howe says the 94 crime bill was based. Then Trump, not then, but Trump did the criminal justice reform with Tim Scott. Frustrated emoji. Yeah, I'm not, that's one of the things that I'm not with Trump on necessarily. I'm with Tucker Carlson in criticizing Trump for that. He was too nice to the blacks, not in a good way, I think. Tim Scott, the rhino one, not the one in my chat. The one in my chat's the real Tim Scott, the senator who's engaged to that white gal, white single mother, divorced. Is a mess, pushing that fake idea of racism and stuff. Anyway, that's my little rant. A lot of these researchers, what's the word? They denial, deceit, and delusion, or something like that. Colin Flaherty used to say. They muddy the waters. They obscure the truth. They don't bring forward the simple truth. The truth is simple. I know that there's a lot of facts involved, and there's a whole lot of stuff, moving parts, but they're not honest. Intellectuals are not honest.